Hi everyone, you're with Rick and Maureen from Hunterline in Cambridge, Ontario. We're on session 7 of our build along. It's our 50-foot queen post truss bridge, covered bridge that we're doing. The one we're doing right here is our SN3 bridge, just big enough that you can actually see it on camera. So tonight we're going to put the ridge board on and kind of finalize the whole roof situation. Maureen.
Okay. All right, so we've got our ridge board, which is the 1x6. And what you need to do is just measure that along the peak of the roof and get the length and find out how long to cut it. So this is pretty thin. I'm probably just going to snap it and cut the two of them. And then we have to glue that right to the peak.
All the ridge board does is stops the rain and the elements from going down that crack right along the peak of the roof.
So get your glue and just put a bead all the way down the whole length. I'd probably glue both sides at this time. You've really let the roof set up now. Probably a good 24 hours is a good amount of time to let that dry. So take your one ridge board and kind of lay it at the peak. I got a little bit too much glue, so I'm just going to rub some of that off. And get the other one. And it kind of just butts up against the first one. You just want to get them mated together. Like so. Try to get all the excess glue off. If it's overhanging at the end, that's okay. Just once it's dry, you can shave that off. So you want to let this set up. So what we're going to do is pause this for a few minutes and come back, and then we'll get into the staining of the roof. You just want to make sure that everything is really dry before you start staining, because you don't want anything to lift up and you don't want any of the shakes or the ridge board to warp.
Back in a minute.
Okay, so that's set up pretty well. So the ridge board is all set. It really kind of finishes that roof off nicely. So what we're going to do now is just finish up some staining. Probably want to just take your base color that you used for the bridge, and I used light gray, and go around the bridge and touch up any of the areas that were cut and you haven't touched up. So on mine it's the roof rafters, a little bit here under the roof, the sheathing that you can see. Go on the other side. There's a couple ends here. Just take it along here. And it's okay if it drizzles down in under the roof. That always adds a little character. It looks good. You can see that.
You notice we put a hunk of tape around this so that the bottle doesn't spill. How do we know that?
Yeah, I've done that a couple times. Okay. Just look for anything that might be bare wood. And I think it looks pretty good. I put a couple streaks on my sign. Where are we here? Kind of dry brushed some streaks on there. So now I'm going to do my roof. I don't know what color you chose, but it's probably, the roof is probably sun bleached a lot, I would think. And I, for some reason, don't want to go with my light gray for this bridge. I want the roof to be a different color, so I'm going to use driftwood. And you notice I've got my gloves on. So what we do here is just turn that bridge right upside down, and really, again, the most important thing I can stress is that these shakes have completely dried at least 24 hours. And you just put your brush in that bottle and you start applying it, and just don't dry brush it, just put it on straight, let it ooze down into all those crooks and crannies.
That's the thing about the tab, is when you do them upside down, the stain actually runs into the tab and emphasizes the tab, which is a good thing. You can see now all of a sudden each shake is taking on its own characteristic.
Looks good. It's a little bit darker now. It's going to dry lighter. But you can see too some of those shakes that were burnt. It adds a nice variation.
Yeah, well, we'll say that again. We use the burnt side of the shakes. It just looks better.
And as you were putting the shakes on, you would have looked for any glue that had oozed out and scrape that off, of course, because if you don't, the stain's not going to adhere to it. So you can see it kind of going right down into the grooves. This looks great. And you just might want to turn it this way, right there. I'm going underneath. Okay. And then you do the same, of course, to the other side.
Now, this is just a base coat for the roof. We'll be adding a little more later.
Yeah, you can put this on as many coats as you want, actually. If you put it on and you think that you'd like it a little bit darker, just add another coat.
And with this method of applying the shakes, you're not going to get a warp out of it. Not now. It's all settled and dry.
And you've got your walls done already. You probably have your base coat on, and then maybe you dry brushed another color on, red or blue-gray, or I had used brown, a medium brown. So you pretty much got those done, and you may have already dry brushed some creosote black on that as well, just under the eaves and up from the bottom where there'd be moisture. And again, just turn that bridge over and get underneath. Get those shakes there underneath. So there, you've got one coat on there. Looks good, I think.
Looking great.
You can see all the varied colors in there. So you can kind of let that dry up a little bit. And you might want to do some more dry brushing if you want to add. Maybe we'll just actually, before we do that, I'm going to let this roof dry a little bit. We'll just let that dry up, and then we'll come back and I'll do some dry brushing on that roof. Okay.
See you in a minute.
Okay, so that's dried up a little bit. We're going to do some dry brushing. I'm going to take my creosote black because I have my walls done. I've put my medium brown on varied planks there on the bridge. I have put some creosote black up from the bottom and under the eaves, but I want to add a little bit more. I think it should be a little darker. So just take your bottle, give it a good shake, and stick your brush in there straight into the bottle, and just dab a lot of it off on the paper towel, just till you get an idea of how dark you want this to be. You don't want to start out really dark because you can't, it's hard to go light, right? So start out light and then work from there. If you have to add more coats, that's okay. So you can see how I'm just darkening that up a little bit.
This is a great thing about doing a board-on-board project. You can see every board has a different characteristic, different shade, different texture. Look how the roof is turning out, the shakes.
That's good.
Now it's not a big deal if the shakes are a different color than what the bridge is, because usually the material they used for shakes was cedar shakes, and cedar is a much different color than the pine or whatever the bridge is made out of. So it can be quite different if you want it. Maureen's going to show you a couple thoughts that we have depending on where the bridge is located. Sometimes these are out in the middle of a field going across a bridge, a little river of some sort. Other times it's in a forest with lots of trees and stuff around. So we're going to kind of make this one towards a little river going through a forest, which means the bleaching of the roof is going to be a lot different at the ends as it is in the middle, because the middle would get sunlight all the time, where the ends would be in the shade of the tree. Like what Maureen's doing there, doing the top, that is to create shadows underneath the eave.
And you might want to go back and take a board, take a few boards, several boards, and just do them a specific color, you know. So just go and start dry brushing first, and color in a board here and there. I think that looks pretty good. You can see sort of the effect. It doesn't take a lot of time. Okay, so like Rick said, I think what I'm going to do is do some dry brushing. I want to do some under the eave here on the gable. So again, I'm going to get most of my black off.
So she's going to create a little bit of a shadow under the roof line.
Tip that up a little bit.
This is like forcing Mother Nature.
Yeah. And so you can just, you can see the darkness coming there. So you just make that as dark as you like. You can always come back to it later and add more. But also on the roof, I'm going to do some dry brushing here. And you can go up. You can go this way if you want. I'm just thinking that maybe the trees are overhanging here a little bit on this part of the bridge. Just make it a little bit lighter as you get further in. Go on this side. Whoop. Okay, back on screen here.
We do sell the shakes separately if you have a project that you want to use this type of a shake on.
So really, this is kind of the fun part, just adding all your little personal touches here. Anything goes, really.
What you perceive.
Sorry.
But most of our projects we do put the base coat on and then dry brush subsequent coats. It just adds that extra layer of color and texture.
What do you think? I might do this side as well. Just adding a little bit more shadow under the eaves.
So we're coming to an end on this project. Wow.
It was a fun project.
This one's a neat because there's still covered bridges all over the place, okay? And still in use. There's still railroad bridges in use. A lot of these have been converted into road bridges, and they're all over the place, especially in the East and the Midwest and so on. But they're a neat design. They give you that effect of a consist going through something and coming out the other side. It's like a tunnel. It has that same effect. And yes, you can see the headlight going through it and lighting up the inside. It's a really neat effect. We hope you've had a lot of fun with it. I think the next thing you have to do is put it on your layout. And some people don't put it on the layout, but they put it on their mantle.
Yes, so I think that's it.
So we hope you've enjoyed this project. We've really liked doing it, showing you exactly how we do these things. But hey, looks good.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, thanks for all your participation, and we'll put this back to Jim. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.